Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name's Andrew, aka the 𝓑𝓵𝓮𝓵. This is 𝓑𝓵𝓮 Studios, and this is another episode of iPlay Raid Shadow Legends. Today, I'm going to be just doing a quick video. I'm going to try to shorten up this information and make this as short and fast of a video as possible on budget Unkillable clan boss team. This will generally work with like 99% of all champions that you could throw in. The only champions that you do not want to throw in as your damage dealers on an Ultra Nightmare or on any budget Unkillable clan boss team are champions that increase their turn meter at any point, you know, through abilities or passives or anything like that. And that's, or champions that take extra turns, you know. So we don't want champions that are going to be taking extra turns, generally speaking. But it can work. And there are lots of Deadwood Jedi videos that will show all the examples of the champions like Lord Shazar, of champions that take extra turns that can still work in a budget Unkillable comp. Okay, but in this video today, we're not going to be focusing on those teams, on those types of champions. We're just going to be focusing on the exact team that I'm using right now. So basically, to give a quick summary of how budget Unkillable clan boss works, is the HP, it needs to be HP and defense tuned. The whole team needs to be HP and defense tuned a certain way. And their speeds all need to be within a certain range. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead here and show something right now. Don't look at the right side of the page, just look at the speeds. This is the budget Unkillable speeds that will work with any comp. This is Maneater's speed, 240 to 241. And this is Painkeeper, 218 to 222 speed. The damage dealers, number 1, 175 to 178 speed. Damage dealer number 2, same thing. And then the Slowboy target, which is going to be the champion on your team that takes the stun. The reason he or she is running so slow is because he will have the Unkillable and the block debuffs buff up when the clan boss stuns him, and everyone else on the team, it will have worn off for that strike. So for for Ultra Nightmare and Brutal, the speeds are between 111 to 118 speed. For Nightmare, it changes to 121. So what I do is I just change out one piece of gear that doesn't really have any key stats on it except for just speed, and then I can go into Nightmare and I can get a 1 key. So these are the champions that I use. Let's first do the Unkillable champions. Okay, actually let's make it easier here to go in order of highest HP to lowest HP prospectively. This is just a guide, okay? So this is my Slowboy, and he's going to have, he doesn't, but just play along with me here. He has quote-unquote the highest HP on the team, but he cannot have higher than 20% of Painkeeper's HP. So if Painkeeper's HP is 40k, the Slowboy has to have between 40 to 44k HP for this to work, generally speaking, and the lowest defense on the team. Okay, so Geo's HP is 43,674, and his defense is very low, 1292. His speed is 116. His crit rate, 100%. Crit damage, 109%. And accuracy, 291, so that he can be landing his debuffs on Ultra Nightmare. A good accuracy to shoot for on any champ that needs accuracy in clan boss is 250, because 250 will work on Ultra Nightmare. When I go into Nightmare, I just change this shield. I just change it because it adds 5 more speed onto him, and it doesn't change anything else in the build. It adds a little bit more HP to him, which isn't a bad thing either. In this case, for my build, because his HP is already low and a little too low to begin with. And he has 121 speed when I put that shield on. And it only cost me 25,000 to change because it's a 5-star shield. I think the 6-star legendary gear costs like 100,000 to change, and that's why I just went with 5-star for that. Okay? Any gear can be used. It doesn't have to be this exact gear, as long as it gets to the right stats, and it can be tinkered with. But certain times I will not roll up a piece of gear because I don't want to run the risk of, I don't have an extra piece to replace it first of all, and I don't want to run the risk of like getting the speeds off and stuff like that, so I just leave it. I roll it up as much as I can and then I just leave it. So he has Destroy Gloves with 39% crit rate and crit damage and attack percent. He has an Accuracy chest with HP percent. Accuracy and speed and crit rate and defense percent. Attack percent boots with speed and crit rate and HP percent. Speed set boots. Lifesteal shield with speed and crit rate. Lifesteal helmet with attack percent, crit damage, accuracy, and HP percent. And then an accuracy weapon with speed and crit rate and accuracy. The only set bonus I got is accuracy out of all these gear pieces. I have an HP ring with HP percent and attack percent. I have a Revenge Amulet, which gives him a 5% chance to counterattack when hit, with HP and accuracy. Ideally, I would have, on everybody except Painkeeper, I would have all Revenge accessories to get more counterattacking going and more damage. I have an accuracy banner on him with attack percent. For the Masteries, for Geomancer, since he's the Slowboy, this is just a basic Slowboy's Masteries, is I went with things that did not add more HP, did not add more healing, did not add turn meter boosts. So I went with Resist, Mighty Endurance. It's not going to affect it at all because he's never going to receive a debuff from Clan Boss. Resurgent, Wisdom of Battle, Stubbornness, Delayed Death. There's a lot to be argued about Delayed Death, that it would mess things up because he takes less damage, yada yada yada. I haven't found it to be too much of a problem, but yeah, I don't know how it ended up working out this way. I think if I could change it, I would not take Delay Death, because I could just go into Retribution from Stubbornness, I think. But ultimately we want to get to Retribution so that he's counterattacking, and then instead of Delay Death, if you're finding it that he's not taking enough damage, you probably just go with like Solidarity into Selfless Defender, so he takes more damage from the first hit in each round. And then for the offensive Masteries, I did not take Life Drinker for the stun target because we don't want him healing when he has 50% HP or less. And then War Master. Those are the only important ones there. Next, I'll show Painkeeper. So ideally, Painkeeper is supposed to have just a little bit less HP than the stun target. So she has 43,374 HP. And I try to get everyone else's defense on the team to between 2k to 2,500 defense. That's really all that matters. It can be higher, but it can't be lower. We don't want it going below 2k defense, if that makes sense. 221 speed, so she fits the speed requirement. 97% crit rate, so she can do some damage. And then 111 crit damage. and accuracy is not needed for Painkeeper. And I went with 4-piece speed bonus, so I got the 4-piece speed bonus on her to arrive at this speed. The weapon has speed on it, HP percent, it's pretty standard, crit rate, crit damage on the helmet, speed, crit rate, speed, crit damage, defense percent on the shield, 4-star speed boots with crit rate and crit damage, flat stat HP chest with speed, defense percent, only rolled to level 12 because I don't want her HP going up any higher. Crit rate 39%, crit damage 10% on the gloves, and then speed. And then for the ring, I do not want Painkeeper counterattacking because she has a turn meter boost on her A1. So we've already accounted for that in the speeds. We don't want her counterattacking and increasing her turn meter at all. So that is why I would not put any revenge accessories on her. I went with a defense ring, defense percent, HP percent. These can be switched out. Whatever you got to do to get the HP and the defense set at the right levels with any of the gear. You just got to kind of manage it on your own account. I went with an HP amulet with crit damage. Only rolled to level 12. And then a defense banner with speed and HP percent. And that's how I arrived at the correct stats for her. For the Masteries for Painkeeper, this bottom row here, I can't stress this enough, we don't want her having Retribution. We don't want her having Cycle of Revenge. We don't want her having Selfless Defender. There's no other masteries that I can take. So effectively, you do not need to farm the last 200 scrolls for Painkeeper because you'll never use them. So these are the only masteries that I would put on Painkeeper. Tough Skin, Blast Proof, Resurgent into Delay Death. Those are the only ones that are important for defense. And then for offense, the only important ones are Life Drinker and War Master. That's it. Everything else is just a bonus for doing more damage and not increasing the turn meter. That's it. That's Painkeeper. So for my Maneater, he has 43k HP, so he has like the third highest HP on the team. 2600 defense, so he meets the defense requirement. Try to get him to 100% crit rate. Try to get his crit damage up there as much as possible. And if you're using Geomancer or any champion that reflects damage back to the clan boss, you don't want Maneater landing his A1, which is decrease attack, because you will reflect less damage back to the clan boss. So try to get his accuracy as low as possible so that his A1 gets resisted, which is pummel. So we're not landing that decrease attack as quite as often. Okay, so for his gear, I tried to make him quick, so I got a 4-piece speed set bonus on him. And then I got a weapon with speed, a triple roll of speed on there. It's really not that hard to make 241 speed. It may seem like a little bit much, but if we look at some of the other Unkillable comps that came out before this, where like double Maneaters and stuff like that, where they both have to have like 256 speed, this is pretty good. This is pretty easy to obtain actually, and still get some damage in there. So I went with a helmet with speed, a shield with speed, crit damage, crit rate, defense percent, crit rate gloves with speed and HP percent, defense chest with speed, and 6-star speed boots with crit damage. and attack percent. I went with a 𝓬𝓮𝓵𝓬𝓬, which gave him some defense, attack percent, and HP percent, and counterattacking. Crit damage amulet with attack and defense. And then a revenge banner with speed and HP. These are the only masteries that I would really use for Maneater to give him tough skin, blast proof, resurgent into delay death, and solidarity, and retribution, and deterrence. And then for the offensive masteries, the only ones that really matter is having Life Drinker and War Master. And then the damage dealers that I'm using right now is Aox the Rememberer. Aox, his stats are really messed up here. As you can see here, he's got really high defense, but he's got no crit rate. So yeah, he's not going to be the stun target, but he's also not going to be doing as much damage. I could have him at 2500 defense. If I had him at 2500 defense, his HP would need to come up a little bit more. But as it stands right now, this HP level is fine because his defense is so high. But I would ideally want to bring it down and then bring his crit rate to 100, crit damage as high as possible, and get his accuracy to at least 250. But you'll see here why this works. Because I have, on Ultra Nightmare, I use Frozen Banshee as the lead, and she gives an extra 35 accuracy as her aura. That's why it works. So I have him in lifesteal gear, and that actually works out well for him because he will never drop below the stun target's HP level. So he has 176 speed, so he meets the speed requirement. I got a speed weapon, like I have speed on the weapon and crit rate and accuracy, speed on the helmet, accuracy on the shield, crit damage, HP percent, defense gloves, and I went with a 2-piece immortal as well, so he does gain 3% health every turn, which is really good for this type of a champion. 50% defense, speed, and accuracy. And on the chest, speed, defense percent, and HP percent. And then the boots, defense percent boots with speed and accuracy and crit rate. The reason I'm saying all the stats, these are the important stats that I look for in gear when I'm choosing my clan boss team. Defense ring with defense percent. I would change that to a reaction or to a revenge ring if I could. And I would make that an attack ring probably. Always I could lower his defense. I just haven't had a chance to change his build yet, otherwise I would have by now. This amulet would probably become a crit damage amulet. His build would be similar looking to Maneater, honestly, with accuracy and crit damage on it. And then the banner, this would become an accuracy banner, and it would have speed on it. It would need to have 14 speed though. And for the masteries for Aox, these are not optimal masteries, but they don't have any turn meter reduction or turn meter increase either, which is good. The only ones that you don't want is rapid response or arcane celerity, but I went with pinpoint accuracy, another one that would be great because he's only going to be using his A1, so his skills are never going to be on cooldown, is charged focus. So it increases his accuracy by 20 when he has no skills on cooldown, which would be better. But I also use them in other areas too, so yeah, these ones here are just for other areas of the game. But Swarm Smiter is important, so it gives an extra 4 accuracy in Clan Boss, and then an important one is Sniper, so he has an extra 5% chance of placing poisons on his A1, which is already low enough to begin with. And then Master Hexer, 30% chance to extend the duration of his poisons. And other debuffs that he casts too. He, he's got a lot of other debuffs for other areas of the game. And then basically, yeah, I didn't put Life Drinker on him, but he should have Life Drinker. I didn't change his masteries either, but he's got Lifesteal gear, so it kind of offsets. He also has Immortal, so it really does offset. But put Life Drinker on him, and then War Master, and that's it. And then my other DPS champion is Frozen Banshee, soon to become Aother. I'm just going to start making different champs I can sub in and out. But yeah, so Frozen Banshee has 39k HP and 2450 defense and 176 speed, 88% crit rate and 84% crit damage, and 209 accuracy. It's pretty low. It's not high at all, but I wanted to put her into retaliation gear because she does so good in retaliation gear, it's sickening. So crit damage, crit rate, she doesn't need to be in retaliation gear, honestly. I would honestly just, if I'm going to use this exact team, I would not use Frozen Banshee. Instead, I would use Aother, because it will work on 3 affinities instead of 2. So, but if you want to use Frozen Banshee and you want to put her in any gear, the stats I would look for is crit damage, crit rate, accuracy, HP percent, and speed, and then just kind of manage it that way, where you're getting her crit rate up as high as possible, you're getting her to enough HP that she's not, enough HP and enough defense percent, enough speed, and enough accuracy. So she is a little bit stat hungry, but it's really not that hard to build her. You just have to look at your gear and basically just try to get it all right, which could take some time and testing, but you will eventually get it right. Okay? Speed boots with accuracy and crit rate, and she would be really good in counterattack accessories as well. I have her in an HP ring with attack percent, HP percent, defense percent. Her base HP is fairly low, so that was one of the challenges I found when building Frozen Banshee, is to get her HP high enough so that she wasn't taking the stuns, and her defense. Defense amulet with accuracy and crit damage, and an accuracy banner with speed and defense percent. And then for her masteries, these are really the only masteries I would use for Frozen Banshee. Just go in the defense tree and get Retribution, Blast Proof, and Delay Death, as well as Tough Skin. And then Life Drinker and War Master. And that's really it. That's as simple as I can put it. 24 minutes I think is pretty good for me to explain just the stats of a clan boss build. Again, I want to just reiterate that your 2 damage champions, the champions as 175 to 178 speed, as long as they're not taking extra turns or getting turn meter boosts, they can be any DPS champions you want. And they have to be between 175 to 178 speed. Okay? That's really it. And then obviously affinity is going to matter too, because if the clan boss, what typically the clan boss does is, no matter how high your HP and defense is, on your champions, he will target the negative affinity. So if the clan boss's affinity is blue affinity, he's going to target the green affinity champions on your team first. Okay, so you know that's basically how that works. So the way that I counteract it is, and I think you can't make an all force affinity team either, or an all blue affinity team either, because then you run the risk of the clan boss then targeting your void affinity champions if the clan boss is weak affinity. So like if you have all force affinity champions on your team and the clan boss is blue affinity, he's probably going to target the void affinity champions on your team that you don't want getting stunned. So to make this work, you basically have to either build a team that will only work on 2 or 3 affinities and then just switch out champs, or you have to work on making an all void team, and that'll probably be very difficult to do and may even cause you to not have as much damage as you would want on your team. But if you're going for a 2 key on Ultra Nightmare, your level of damage to shoot for is 35 million per run, 40 million on Nightmare, and 22 million on Brutal. Ideally, if you can 2 key Ultra Nightmare, you'll be able to 1 key Nightmare. That's what I found. So shoot for a 2 key, 35 million damage per run on Ultra Nightmare, and you'll be able to 1 key all the other areas. Okay, so with that, I'm getting out of here for today. Peace out.